How does the four-dimensional consciousness interact with or influence the physical laws of our three-dimensional universe? Firstly, consciousness is not four-dimensional. It is the fourth dimension. It's very important that we do not start referring to consciousness as four-dimensional. It is its own reality. It is not made of different parts. Even to refer to it as the fourth dimension, it's not an intrinsic property of consciousness. There is nothing fourth in it. It is because we can arrive at it using our understanding of dimensions, and we live in a three-dimensional world spatially. We call it the fourth. It's not four-dimensional. Now, how does it interact with or influence the laws of physics? Consciousness is the cause. Our three-dimensional world is the effect. It is the only cause. Everything that happens in our three-dimensional world, every experience, every movement, every change can be traced back to consciousness. We have been living in a world where we have to define, we are forced to define cause and effect as a relationship between different effects, observable effects. Let's say we take gravity, for example. Newton said the apple falls from a tree because of gravity. Then we realize that gravity is a fundamental force that governs the movement, shape, size, structure, the overall framework that is supporting the large-scale universe is gravity. It is through gravity that we were able to explain why a planet revolves around the sun. How does a galaxy exist? What is movement in reference to a gravitational field? The entire evolution of the universe was explained using gravity. In fact, without gravity, we don't even know how to explain why things exist. Because in our explanations, stars are formed when gaseous clouds of matter gather and clump because of gravity. It is gravity that attracts mass, and that is the primary force that eventually creates stars, planets, and everything. Newton saw gravity as a force because it is exerting a force. Apple is falling to the ground because the earth is exerting a force on the apple. In fact, he said it's both the apple is exerting the force on the earth and the earth is exerting the force on the apple. Earth being bigger, apple falls to the ground. Otherwise, all bodies of mass are attracting each other in proportion to their masses and inversely proportional to their distance. The longer the distance, the lesser the influence of gravity. Now, Einstein came and said, gravity is not a force. It is an effect due to the curving of the space-time fabric. He took it to a whole new level. Because the problem with Newton's understanding of gravity was he assumed that the effects of gravity are instantaneous. So if there is Earth revolving around the sun, if sun were to disappear, according to Newton, the Earth would immediately start going in a straight trajectory. Because there's no sun, it won't be in an orbit around the sun. Now this contradicts with one of the fundamental laws of the speed of light. We know nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, not even information. So the question is, how is gravity acting instantaneously over long distances? There's got to be a better explanation. Something is missing here. Einstein said, we don't even have to explain how gravity acts over long distances because it's not a force. It is the curving of the fabric of space-time itself. So when there is a body of mass, it curves the fabric of space. In fact, he did not even refer to space as something different. He called both space and time as one entity, called it the space-time fabric. Distortion in space is distortion in time as well. Now, this theory has been so successful, so spectacularly accurate. In fact, if you understand the calculations of Einstein's relativity, it is scarily accurate in predicting how bodies move. Now, it's got to be right. That is why general relativity has been one of the fundamental theories through which we explain the universe, especially the large-scale universe. Now, the problem is Einstein does not explain what is gravity. Now, although it is easy to assume that, well, he is saying gravity is an effect. It is not a cause. We thought it's a cause, it's an effect. But no, he is not explaining the actual cause of that effect. Think about it. General relativity says the space curves because of the presence of mass. And gravity is a result of this curving. Now, what does this mean? It means we really don't know what gravity is. We are basically describing two effects. We are saying gravity distorts space-time and space-time distortion creates gravity. Both are effects. We don't have a cause. And yet, we have been able to mathematically explain this and use it to understand the nature of reality around us. And that's the beauty of mathematics, that is the beauty of science. Even if few critical elements are missing, we can still try and weave a story for ourselves. But because a critical component is missing, the story would be fictitious. If it is proven that gravity is indeed an effect and the cause is a higher dimension, the cause is not in the third dimension, it's coming from consciousness, then all our explanations that are centered around gravity will have to be revisited and re-understood. Even the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe, because it's all explained through gravity. Without gravity, you really cannot explain why there is a sun. Now, if gravity itself is an effect, then our explanations have to change completely. So in our three-dimensional world, unawareness of the fourth dimension makes it inevitable, forces us to explain things as a cause and effect relationship between two things, when in fact there is no cause and effect relationship. It is a relationship between an effect and an effect. Take the brain, for example. Now we say thoughts are being generated in the brain. Consciousness is being generated in the brain. There are neurons, there are synapses, there's these connections and electrical impulses traveling between the neurons. All that put together is generating thoughts. All those thoughts put together is generating a conscious experience. But in actuality, none of this represents cause. Brain is not a cause. Thoughts are not a cause. Neurons are not a cause. They're all effects. We are living in the world of effects. The cause is somewhere else altogether. But unawareness of the cause forces us to explain things using effects. That is why no matter how we try, something is fundamentally missing in our understanding of life. The most important thing, the most intimate thing, has not been defined at all. We might find it surprising that we actually don't know what life is. We think we know because we explain it through some process. We explain it through a biological process. We explain it as an end result of evolution. We go back in time, millions of years, sometimes billions of years, to explain what's happening here, now. We have no other option, because we don't know that there is something above this. There is something higher, deeper, vaster, grander, of which we are a tiny, slithering part. Our world is a surface tension on consciousness. That too perceptual, not existential. Consciousness doesn't even feel the presence of thoughts. We experience them. For us, the world of effects is real because we are a part of that world. That is why you can be hit by a truck and you can die. Because your body and the truck both belong to the same world of effects. That is why one thing can affect another. They have to be linked because they are effects. And if the cause is a single entity, there are no multiple causes, there is a single cause, then they have to be connected. Then, whether you miss that truck or you get hit by it are two different events and interrelated, connected events. Now, this interrelationship between effects is what we recognize as physical laws. Our physical laws explain the relationship between things. They don't actually explain what those things are. That is why, using physical laws, we can understand what happens when we change one of the parameters. Let's say the sun, there's nuclear fusion happening, energy being released. You tweak one of the parameters, even slightly, the whole thing falls apart. What we recognize as a physical law is this perfect fine-tuning where even a small deviation from that fine-tuned world of laws, everything falls apart. Hence, we absolutely have to assume that our world is governed by the laws of physics. And it is. This has been the process for the past hundreds of years. Everything we thought mystical, arbitrary, being influenced by some external higher force, God, His plan, His intention. Slowly, we've been able to explain using science that we don't have to bring in this external entity that is mysterious. We can explain everything using the laws of physics.